Brainstorm, a card commonly known as overpowered, format breaking, and even too good to be legal, has been dominating the Legacy metagame for years. It's what players like to call a Legacy staple. From the days when Brainstorm was legal and standard to what it has become today, 5 players will go over their experiences with this one-of-a-kind card.
Brainstorm is a card, like most card selection, that scales to the power level of the cards that it's digging for. So if you're digging for like mediocre cards that all do the same thing, then it doesn't really matter. It's like slightly card filtering. But the fact that it's so good in Legacy is because the cards that you're finding are so powerful.
When Ice Age came out, Brainstorm got made, and it was advertised as a blue instant that costs 1 that draws 3 cards. And obviously it's no Ancestral, but the technology of decks was just a lot worse. Power level of cards was worse in Type 2 at that point. So it wasn't until people really caught on that shuffling was like a really major thing. Shuffling actually as a deck manipulation method just hadn't really kind of caught on until Alliances, where Thawing Glaciers was the first kind of like big foray into it.
It actually wasn't amazing. It was really just a fair card because you didn't have fetch lands to gain a ton of value out of it, and people would sometimes play other cards with it just to help it be better. Like Opt was a card that first came out, and it was a cantrip. It was just like 1 blue, look at the top card, you can put it on the bottom, draw a card. So they would like Brainstorm, put 2 bad ones on top, and they would Opt, put 1 bad one on the bottom and draw a card, you know? And like they kept playing cards like that to help make Brainstorm better. But now like with fetch lands and Legacy, it's just absurd.
Now when Mercadian Mass came out, like the great thing about Brainstorm is that like you have Rebels, which is also another shuffling engine. You get out Lyn Civvy, and then you basically just keep on shuffling and using Brainstorm to like shuffle back the Rebels you happen to draw in your hands.
Nobody really played Brainstorm. There wasn't many shuffle effects, but without shuffle effects, Brainstorm is not a very good card. It's worse than a Preordain, you know? So
it was very good in Legacy for a long time, but there'd be the occasional Grand Prix where there'd be like, oh, there's some cool decks for Legacy, but no one cared. And they would play whatever they wanted at their local Legacy tournament. And that's still kind of the same today, except you have all these like really good players who go around to all these events, and they like to play the most powerful spells in the format. And they like to play control, so they play Brainstorm and Force of Will. And when you have that kind of caliber player, like working on a deck to make it as good as it can be, you know, you really start to see how good certain cards are. And people will find a card that's too good and they will break it. But the fact that Brainstorm decks haven't been that dominant over the last couple months means that like maybe it's lost its hold over the format. So
it's the defining card of Legacy. Whether people recognize that or not, that's just the simple truth. Since it's so played, it determines the winner of a lot of games, but it has such a subtle effect that people don't realize it. And the matches I was playing, like my opponents were playing their Brainstorms really poorly, and I had more experience, and I felt like that was probably the one area where most Legacy players can improve the most.
The number one thing you can do with Brainstorm that makes it better is just stop casting it end of turn unless you are digging for something specific and need the mana for it. If your deck is not just like in a scenario, it's like, I need the mana next turn and I need to find something with Brainstorm, why are you end stepping it? You don't want to wait forever. Like, there's a point where you just say like, I need to be doing things and Brainstorm's gonna get me things. But like, just I've definitely walked away from playtesting sessions where someone leads on end of turn Brainstorm I won. I'll just pick up my deck and walk away because I know that like I'm just going to win every game for no reason.
Brainstorm has always been really powerful. The thing I don't like about it, it's been powerful the same way. It's generally with shuffling, and the potential of it when it first came out was like, hey, I need these cards right now, and I'm willing to draw cards I already have a bit later. That doesn't really hold true anymore.
I think if Brainstorm was banned tomorrow, it would definitely be different. The change from what it is right now wouldn't be as drastic as it would have like 6 months ago or 6 months before that. Ever since Maverick and non-Brainstorm decks have started rising and preying on the Brainstorm decks for still inherently, without Brainstorm being in their hand, drawing like cards that are situational, we're starting to see the same kind of stuff you'd see without Brainstorm in the format.
Legacy has so many cards, and a card like Brainstorm isn't a card like 2 mana, deal 20 damage, where it's just like, it's an auto win. Whereas in Standard, it's like, you have less options. So I think that's what makes Legacy what it is, having cards to, you know, give people options, and Brainstorm is one of those cards.
Brainstorm is an instant for 1 blue mana that lets you draw 3 cards, then put any 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order.